Hey folks, we're here with Jeremy Lawson, Any Good Reason Kennels, the 2020 Pheasant Fest, sponsored and put on by Pheasants Forever. We've talked to a ton of people, like minds, like projects. It's just a lot of fun to be here at Pheasant Fest with all these dog people and upland hunters. I'm here to talk to Jeremy about how to pick a puppy and what he and his wife Amy look for in their breeding program. So Jeremy, let's start with this little guy here. We're looking for a home for him. 10 weeks old, 8 weeks old. How old is this little guy?
He's 10 weeks old today.
Okay, yeah. And when you brought these guys into the world, what were you and Amy looking at to try to improve the breed overall and to try to get what you guys like for your customers?
Yep, so the whole purpose to have a litter, you should be improving each generation. So when we do this, we look at the male and the female, the attributes of each one.
Right.
So if you have a dog, and nobody has a perfect dog, no matter what we all think. So you try to enhance the good, right, and you find a stud dog that will help do that and help in the parts that are a little weaker. So to do that with this, the female, his mom is a little bit soft on her retrieve.
Right.
She's good, but not as good as I would like.
Right.
His dad is a phenomenal retrieving dog. So that just helps enhance that. And you get the good with all the good.
Right. Right. Now, when you were looking at how to pick a male for your female, what were you looking for? What kind of traits were you looking for?
Myself personally, I'm a field trial hunt test guy. I don't do any waterfall hunting with my dogs, so the NAVHDA stuff is great. It's just not something that I get into. We like very athletic dogs.
Okay.
And you normally get that with the horseback field trial dogs and the walking field trial dogs and the hunt test dogs too.
Okay.
But the NAVHDA dogs seem to be a little bit bigger bone and a little bit, they're hardier, I guess.
Okay. Now, you and I over the years have hunted a lot of upland game together. One thing I've always noticed about your dogs, for a versatile breed, they carry their head somewhat higher than what I've seen out of a lot of the NAVHDA dogs. And that's not a knock, it's just something. Would you kind of perceive that's what you're looking for in these little guys?
Yep, because of what we hunt, the birds we hunt, the areas that we hunt, we need a dog that will carry their head a little higher and get air scent, not as much the ground scent.
Right.
With that, though, you also lose a little bit of that ground tracking on a wounded bird. So these guys will find a bird. It might just take them a little bit longer than a dog that drops its nose. Okay,
and especially here in Pheasant Fest, we're dealing with 99% hunters of pheasants.
Yep.
So when we tell people that, I think some misconstrue it because everybody wants to retrieve that game. But you don't perceive that to be an issue with this type of breeding.
Nope, not at all. It actually, in my opinion, it's a benefit because now these guys are, with their heads running higher, they're going to catch that scent of that bird at a farther distance. Where when pheasants start running is
right.
So if that dog is standing back on that bird and not put pressure on it, it doesn't have a chance to run yet.
That's a good point. That's a great point.
So
now, to get back to people looking for a puppy, and they're looking at a breeder, what kind of things should they pick out in a breeder that they may not think about, and for the health of the dogs, and this is going to be, we hope, a 12 to 15 year relationship.
Yep.
So if you were looking for a puppy and a breeder, what would you consider to be the top priorities?
The biggest thing is guarantees. I mean, at this point, if you buy a dog without a guarantee, it's a crapshoot, and concentrate on what that guarantee is.
Okay.
So that's important. You have to like your breeder because you're going to be involved with them for the next 12 years, hopefully.
Correct.
So, I mean, you have to have a good working relationship with them. For me personally, when I buy a dog for myself, I don't need to see the puppy. I'm looking at the pedigree, but I've been in it long enough. I know 90% of those dogs in that pedigree.
Right.
So the picture of the puppy isn't as important to me because all bird dogs look the same when they're pointing.
Right, right. Now, if you were a person who wanted to see mom and dad and this and that, what would be your observation of that whole routine?
So what I'm looking for when I go to see a male or a female of a litter coming up, I'm looking at how smooth they move. We're looking at conformation, we're looking at biddability, we're looking at temperament. Temperament is a huge thing. I mean, we get to hunt a lot,
right,
but we still only hunt, there's 300 days or so that we're at home and they're buddies.
That's a
you
good
know?
point. Yeah.
So if they're a pain in the butt for 300 days, it really doesn't matter how good they were those 60.
Right. Final thoughts on nutrition for puppies. What are you looking at in a good quality feed for your litters and for your mother, more importantly?
Yep. So food is one of the probably the second most important thing. Genetics and then proper nutrition. There's a lot of dog foods out there. There's a lot of really high expensive dog foods. I'm in a very active breed like this. We need a lot of fat content to be able to keep these guys looking the way they are.
Right.
But the biggest thing is you got to watch and not get too much high protein too, because that helps. It's hard for them to digest high protein dog foods, and it'll also make your dog a lot leaner no matter how much fat's in it.
Correct.
So it's they got to be able to eat it, and apparently this one's hungry. So, but you know, there is a lot of good dog foods out there. I would tell you, talk to your breeder. I mean, they're gonna, if they've been doing it a while, they know what the good dog foods are out there. And there's some really good ones, but there's some really bad ones out there. So
right, I think the key here, folks, confide in your breeder of your expectations. Talk to them. They're a wealth of information. And if you're an upland hunter, support Pheasants Forever, the Habitat organization.
Midwest Gun Dog Kennels is your full-time gun dog training facility. For over 30 years, we have customized our training to fit each individual gun dog. We know it takes a well-trained gun dog to handle wild birds. Make every hunting trip a dream trip. Let Midwest Gun Dog Kennels put excitement back into your hunt of a lifetime. Midwest Gun Dog Kennels, where experience equals excellence.
Make your next day on the water even better with Airwave Pedestal, the only air suspension system that can be custom adjusted to the weight of the rider. No unreliable springs, no oil-filled shocks to leak. Our patented design utilizes a two-stage suspension system to smooth out the roughest ride, while limiting travel to an industry-leading 2 inches. This boating season, enjoy your time on the water to the fullest. Find out how at airwavepedestal.com.
Dakota Pheasant Guide offers the best wild pheasant hunts from the Glacial Lakes area of South Dakota west to the Missouri River. Packages available include everything from self-guided to fully guided hunts. Book your bird hunting adventure now. Fishermen, iTime Promotions is your ticket to an enjoyable and successful day on the water. Call Dennis Foster for your outdoor adventure of a lifetime.
Jones. I'm president and CEO of the Ruffed Grouse Society and the American Woodcock Society. I've been in this role now for about 18 months. It'll actually be 2 years in June. And prior to coming to the Rough Grouse Society, I was working with our state wildlife agency in my home state of Pennsylvania. And there I oversaw our habitat management programs, which included about 1.5 million to 2 million acres of public lands and about 2 million acres of private lands enrolled in hunter access. But this field has always been a passion for me from my earliest memories. I've loved being outside, loved wildlife, the outdoors, and I've been blessed enough to make that into a career. In my home state, went to school at Penn State, majored in forestry and wildlife management. From there, went to Mississippi State, continued with that work on national forests there, and actually was fortunate enough to spend 5 years with ruffed grouse as part of the Appalachian Cooperative Grouse Research Project. So for 5 years, I spent 7 days a week, 365 days a year living with ruffed grouse, studying their biology, and most important to me, studying their habitat. And from there, made it back home to my home state of Pennsylvania, and worked a lot on finding solutions for improving habitat across large land bases. And when this job came up with the Rough Grouse Society, at the urging of some friends, I pursued it and really started to see it as an opportunity to take some of the things that we had learned working with a bunch of different groups and collaboratives in Pennsylvania, and to take that on the road, if you will, to the 38 states where the Rough Grouse Society is involved. And the need has never been greater. Ruffed grouse are listed as a species of greatest conservation need in 18 state wildlife action plans. American woodcock are listed as a species of concern similarly in 28 state wildlife action plans. We're seeing places like Indiana that are proposing a state endangered listing. This is for our very own ruffed grouse in a state where it was one of the most popular game species harvested throughout the 80s. So we need to think big, and next year we have our 60th anniversary as an organization, started in 1961. In many ways, I'm thinking of this adventure with the Rough Grouse Society. I'm affectionately calling it our 60-year startup. We've got that rich 60-year history, but with the problems and challenges that face us right now, and also the opportunities, we're changing our way of doing business. So in many ways, we're kind of like a startup right now. And we're thinking on big scales. Things need to be scalable. We need to engage with markets. We need to engage with economic development authorities on how forest management benefits local economies, in addition to the wildlife that we love to pursue. So we greatly appreciate all the support we have up here in the Lake States. This is the heart of ruffed grouse country, and it's the heart of the Rough Grouse Society. So keep an eye on us. Watch us on Facebook. Check us out on Instagram. Look at our website. I get on as many podcasts as I can to let our members and supporters know what we've been up to. So keep track of us, and you'll see good things to come.
Hi, I'm Clay Thompson, category manager with Sport Dog brand. Here at Pheasant Fest 2020 back in Minneapolis, where it's been a tremendous show. Mother Nature finally decided to get it back up above zero, and we've had a wonderful crowd today. Super excited to be talking to people about their dogs and pheasant hunting, and how can it get any better than to be spending time with like-minded people talking about the things we truly love. For 2020, one of our new items is the Sport Trainer line. With the bright OLED screen, this system gives you the ability to see in bright, large numbers what level of stimulation you're using for your dog, as well as the icons that show whether you're on static stimulation, vibe, tone, remote launchers, beeper locators. It's all right there showing you quickly what it is that you have at your fingertips. These units come in with 500 yard, 800 yard, and 1200 yard ranges. So it suits anybody's hunting style with 2, 3, and up to even 6 dog capabilities. No matter how many dogs you're taking to the field, the Sport Trainer line is going to deliver performance for you from Sport Dog brand.
High Point Pet Foods presents Country Creations Dog Foods, offering quality nutrition for the life of your canine companion. To fuel the fire of puppyhood into keeping the energy level high of an active young dog. Optimizing the performance of the hard-charging adult, or having a quality diet for your senior canine companion. Country Creations has you covered with their quality formulas. Get in touch with High Point Pet Foods today. Midwest Gun Dog Kennels is your full-time gun dog training facility. For over 30 years, we have customized our training to fit each individual gun dog. We know it takes a well-trained gun dog to handle wild birds. Make every hunting trip a dream trip. Let Midwest Gun Dog Kennels put excitement back into your hunt of a lifetime. Midwest Gun Dog Kennels, where experience equals excellence.
Dakota Pheasant Guide offers the best wild pheasant hunts from the Glacial Lakes area of South Dakota west to the Missouri River. Packages available include everything from self-guided to fully guided hunts. Book your bird hunting adventure now. Fishermen, iTime Promotions is your ticket to an enjoyable and successful day on the water. Call Dennis Foster for your outdoor adventure of a lifetime.
Tell you a little bit about Pheasants Forever and Quail Forever. We're nonprofit conservation organizations, and our mission is wildlife habitat. Wildlife habitat for sustainable bird populations. But think about that web of life that we all learned as third graders. When you create wildlife habitat for pheasants, for quail, you're also creating habitat for monarchs, for honeybees, for waterfowl, for deer, turkeys, water quality, healthy soils, and for you and I. Because part of our mission too is creating public land access. And since Pheasants Forever's 1982 creation, we've created more than 200,000 acres of permanent public lands for everybody. You can go out on those lands and chase birds with your bird dog, with a shotgun, with a pair of binoculars, or with your heart. Whatever you want to do on those public lands, they're yours. And they're creating wildlife habitat and better planet for all of us. Here at National Pheasant Fest and Quail Classic in Minneapolis this year, you know, it's an embodiment on the show floor of everything Pheasants Forever and Quail Forever are. It's a wildlife habitat conservation show. We've got John Deere tractors and seed drills and native grass seeds, and you can sit down one-on-one with our biologists and talk about how the intersection between agriculture and conservation comes together in the form of better habitat right there on the land. We're also a show that has the biggest collection of bird dogs next to Westminster's Dog Show. There's over 4 dozen different breeds of bird dogs on this floor. I have to learn 4 new languages to pronounce them. There's German dogs, the Deutsch Drahtars and the Kurzars. There's Spinoni Italianos, and if you want some lasagna with your bird dog, eh? There's Blue Picardy Spaniels. They sound like mixed drinks. But there's Labrador Retrievers, there's Brittany's, there's German Shorthairs. It's a dog show. It's a habitat show. It's an art show. There's painters out there. Ed Anderson's painting a mural right there on the show floor. You know, we've got shotguns, we've got Blaze Orange, and we have brand new this year with our partners at the Rough Grouse Society, Backcountry Hunters and Anglers, and the Minnesota DNR, the brand new Public Lands Pavilion, where we have the public land stage, where Lan Tawney from BHA, Howard Vincent, the president CEO of Pheasants Forever and Quail Forever, Whit Fosberg, president of TRCP, Ben Jones, the president of RGS. It's the biggest collection of upland personalities, testimonials, anywhere ever collected. And we're all talking about public lands, how to protect those public lands, how to create more habitat on those public lands, and how to make sure they remain public for access for all of us. We're also talking about how to make some of those public lands better, how to get prescribed fire on that public land, how to reinvigorate that habitat so there are more grouse, so there are more sharpies, so there are more pheasants, bobwhite quail, but most importantly, making sure there's access for you and I. And when I think about public lands, you know, certainly I love to chase pheasants and I love to chase quail. It's part of my career. But when I have that off day, when I have that Saturday all to myself, I think back to my Upper Peninsula Yooper roots. I grew up as a ruffed grouse and woodcock hunter in a town of Escanaba, Michigan. And my passion, my love when I get that vacation day is to disappear into the grouse woods, park my truck on a 2-track, release my German short hairs, which are all named after Detroit Tigers or something in Michigan, and we disappear into the grouse woods in search of woodcock and rough grouse, and it's some of the greatest memories that I have following those bird dogs into those aspen forests and just losing myself in thoughts about Jim Harrison's writing and great meals that I'm going to have with my family if we're lucky enough to put a bird in the vest, and I can just escape into what really matters in this life, and that's relationships with dogs, relationship with this earth, and public lands, public forests, public grasslands, places where you chase quail, pheasants, woodcock, grouse, places where you chase your heart. That's where it belongs.
Hi, my name's Jamie Aiken. I'm the mayor of Redfield, better known as the pheasant capital of the world. We're here in Minneapolis at the 2020 Pheasant Festival. We're having a good time here. We're promoting Redfield. This kind of kicked off actually earlier this year. In Redfield, we celebrated, commemorated the 100th anniversary of the first pheasant hunt that took place. Actually, it took place in Spink County, just outside of Redfield. Just a little bit of history with Redfield. We've got a lot of tradition tied with the pheasant. Redfield, we are, our mascot at the high school, we're the Redfield Pheasants. And so back in 1908, the very first successful release of the pheasant, it occurred just outside of Redfield at Hagman's Grove. 3 hens and 3 roosters were released. And if you move forward from 1908 to 1919, the birds flourished. They flourished in South Dakota. In fact, there were so many pheasants that the state sanctioned the very first pheasant hunt, and it was in Spink County. It was a 1-day hunt where you could take 2 roosters. So the reason we're here today in Minneapolis is you maybe well know, pheasant hunting, it's become commercialized. It's kind of a big business nowadays, and a lot of times it's people think, well, I can't afford to go hunting. I have to go to a hunting lodge, I have to go to a game preserve, I have to get a guide. Well, that's not necessarily the case everywhere. I'm here to tell you, if you come to Redfield, South Dakota, if you come to Spink County, it's not yet commercialized there. We've got a few hunting lodges, but for the most part, you're going to come there, you're going to find Midwest-friendly people. You're going to come there where we're going to ask you to go out and hunt the public ground. We've got a lot of public hunting ground. I kind of put myself in your guys' shoes this year. This year, me and some buddies, we went out and we hunted all public ground. We hunted public ground and we hunted late in the season. We went the last week of November, we went the first week of December, and we had good hunting. We found good birds later on in the season, and that's kind of what we're here to promote. You don't need a lot of money. You don't need to go to these big game lodges. We're kind of promoting the old hunt, the way it was 20, 30 years ago. You come spend some time in Redfield, you're at the cafe, you're at the gas station, you go out to the restaurant that night, you start visiting with the locals, the conversation starts out, well, where are you guys from? Well, we're here hunting. You know, we found a few birds, but not a lot of birds. Next thing you know, the guy's like, well, you know what? My dad farms, or my uncle farms. Why don't you guys come out the next day? Why don't you guys come out and hunt on some of our land? We're kind of looking for you guys to build a lifelong relationship with the locals back in our hometown. So year after year, you're coming to hunt, and then you pass that tradition on. You pass it on to your friends, you pass it on to your children, the next generation. That way we keep hunting viable for the next generation. And not only that, but that helps our small towns. That helps our communities survive. That helps our economy.
Hi, I'm Dennis Peterson. I'm speaking to you from Pheasant Fest in Minneapolis. Comment a little bit about seed-ons and problems that have been expressed by some folks about those associated especially with Canada wild rye. All native grasses and a lot of weeds have awns, and they're all potentially dangerous to dogs and other critters. Foxtail barley is one that's particularly bad. That's a grassy weed. In the native world, almost all the grasses have awns. Canada wild rye has gotten somewhat of a bad reputation, in my view at least, because certain practitioners have planted it at rates that are way higher than are appropriate, putting out 2.5 pounds of Canada wild rye in a CRP planting, for instance. And when you do that, Canada wild rye being a cool season, early successional kind of grass, tends to be very, very dominant in the early life cycle of the planting, especially if there aren't other grass species in the mix to compete with it. And what you can wind up with is just a sea of Canada wild rye with way more seed heads, seed-ons than you want to have. Normally, when you plant it with other grasses, it's not that dominant. You plant it at a lower rate, so you wind up with something on the order of less than 1 seed per square foot you're planting. It's not a problem. Porcupine grass is another native that's probably just as, maybe uglier than Canada wild rye from the awn perspective. But all natives have awns, and Canada wild rye just tends to be overused because it's inexpensive.
Diesel train rolls down the line as I'm headed for the land of corn and rye. There is a place I'm always satisfied, full of remedies to ease my worried mind, like pulling catfish on the banks of Cherry Cove, watching wood ducks glide like angels to the shore.